Hi guys, this is Miqueas with another English video for today, and we are going to be talking about transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Now, before, if you watched my other video, we talked about transitive and intransitive verbs. Now, we're going to talk about phrasal verbs. So, a phrasal verb is a verb which is followed by an adverb or a preposition, and these actually make up their own set of vocabulary, right? So, as you know, if you've already studied phrasal verbs, you should be studying these as vocabulary. Some examples of a phrasal verb would be sit down, catch up, and watch out. So furthermore, we organize or we categorize phrasal verbs by transitive phrasal verbs and intransitive phrasal verbs. What's the difference? A transitive phrasal verb has a direct object, while intransitive phrasal verbs do not have a direct object. An object, again, just as a reminder, is a word or part of a sentence that is affected by the action of a verb. Let's look at two example sentences. My mother likes coffee. Mother would be the subject, likes is the verb, and coffee is the object. My mother laughed. Mother would be, what would it be? Right, it would be the subject. And laughed is the verb. So in this case, it's not necessary to have the object, right? So in this case, it's actually an intransitive verb. So that's the difference. A transitive verb, again, a transitive phrasal verb has an object. An intransitive phrasal verb has no object. Okay, so why do we care about the difference between transitive phrasal verbs and intransitive phrasal verbs? Well, that's because a transitive phrasal verb, you can actually separate it. Also, it's important to know so that you can grammatically be correct when using these. So, I'm going to give you a few examples of a transitive verb which has an object. Again, this can be separated. Some examples are give up, which is to finish or stop a habit. He gave up smoking 2 years ago. Put off, postpone, or move to a later time. We've put off the meeting for a week. Set up, to organize. I've set up a filter in my email inbox. Notice how you could also separate these phrasal verbs. For example, we could say, he gave it up. He put it off. Or, I've set it up. So again, these can be separated. Now let's look at the other example. An intransitive verb has no object. Some examples are get by, which means to survive, get up, which means to get out of bed, and pass out, which means lose consciousness. Now these alone can stand on their own. You could say, I get by. You don't need the object. You don't need to say I get by with money, for example. You don't need it. You could say, I get up, or I got up, or I passed out, or I pass out. So again, intransitive verbs do not need the object. Okay, of course in English, there are some exceptions as usual, and there are some phrasal verbs that can be both transitive and intransitive. Let's look at one of those. Look up, right? You could use that both. You could say, I look up, right? If you're looking up, direction-wise, I look up. Or you could also say to look it up. So you could also separate it. So again, this is a verb that can be used, a phrasal verb that can be used as both. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple lists for you guys of some very useful transitive phrasal verbs, intransitive phrasal verbs. So go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Keep practicing.